Few figures in history have captured the imagination quite like Nostradamus, the 16th century French physician, astrologer, and seer, whose cryptic writings continue to intrigue and mystify us centuries after his death. Born Michel de Nostradam on December 14 or 21, depending on sources, 1503 in Saint-Rémy de Provence, France, he rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most debated personalities of the Renaissance. His most famous work, Les Prophéties, the Prophecies, a collection of 942 poetic quatrains, has been interpreted as predicting everything from the rise of Hitler to the September 11th attacks. But who was Nostradamus really? Was he a visionary gifted with foresight, or simply a clever wordsmith whose vague verses have been retrofitted to fit history's twists and turns? Nostradamus's early life was marked by a thirst for learning. He studied at the University of Avignon until the plague forced its closure, then trained as a physician at the University of Montpellier. His medical career was tested by the very disease that disrupted his studies. Plague outbreaks ravaged Europe during his lifetime, claiming his first wife and 2 children in 1534. This personal tragedy may have fueled his later shift toward the mystical, as he began blending his knowledge of herbal remedies and astrology with a growing interest in the occult. By the 1540s, Nostradamus had gained a reputation as a healer and scholar, but it was his almanacs, annual publications filled with predictions based on astrological alignments, that first brought him widespread attention. Encouraged by their success, he published Les Prophéties in 1555, a work that would cement his legacy. Written in a mix of French, Latin, Greek, and Provençal, the quatrains are deliberately obscure, often lacking specific dates or names, which has allowed them to remain endlessly adaptable to interpretation. The quatrains are the heart of Nostradamus's enduring fame. Take, for example, one of his most cited verses from Century 1, Quatrain 35. The young lion will overcome the older one. On the field of combat in a single battle, he will pierce his eyes through a golden cage. 2 wounds made 1, then he dies a cruel death. Many have linked this to the accidental death of King Henry II of France in 1559, who died in a jousting tournament when a lance pierced his helmet's visor. The young lion is seen as his opponent, Gabriel de Montgomery, and the golden cage as the king's gilded helmet. It's a compelling connection, but skeptics argue that such vague language could apply to countless events, especially when interpreted after the fact. This ambiguity is both Nostradamus's strength and his weakness. Supporters claim his predictions foresaw the French Revolution, the Great Fire of London, and even modern events like the rise of Napoleon or the atomic bomb. Critics, however, point out that his quatrains are so open-ended that they invite confirmation bias. Readers see what they want to see. Scholars also note that Nostradamus drew heavily from earlier sources like the Roman historian Livy or medieval astrology texts, suggesting his prophecies might be more literary than prophetic. To understand Nostradamus, we must place him in the context of the Renaissance, an era obsessed with rediscovering ancient wisdom and decoding the cosmos. Astrology was considered a science, and the printing press, still a relatively new invention, allowed figures like Nostradamus to reach a broader audience. His cryptic style may have been a deliberate choice too. In an age of religious persecution, vagueness could protect him from censure while enhancing his mystique. Nostradamus also catered to powerful patrons like Catherine de' Medici, the French queen who summoned him to court in 1556 to interpret her horoscope and advise on her children's futures. His ability to navigate elite circles suggests a savvy pragmatism beneath his esoteric persona. Nostradamus died on July 2, 1566, reportedly predicting his own demise with eerie precision. Since then, his work has never faded from public consciousness. Each generation finds new meaning in his words, especially during times of crisis. Wars, disasters, and pandemics spark renewed interest in his supposed foresight. Today, his quatrains are dissected on forums, in books, and even in viral social media posts, with some claiming they hint at events unfolding in 2025 and beyond. Yet the question remains, was Nostradamus a prophet? His defenders argue that his accuracy defies coincidence, while detractors see him as a master of poetic ambiguity, a Rorschach test for history. Perhaps the truth lies in between, a man who, through a blend of intellect, intuition, and artistry, tapped into the timeless human desire to glimpse the future. What do you think? Are his prophecies a window into destiny, or a mirror reflecting our own hopes and fears? One thing is certain, as long as uncertainty haunts us, Nostradamus will remain a name whispered in wonder.